Okay, we'll stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start the meeting with citizens' concerns and comments. Anybody here for that? Okay. Then we'll start with the regular session minutes, please.
This was the October 20th one? I'll make a motion to accept the October 20th minutes.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have the October 27th.
Make the motion to accept the October 27th minutes.
Okay, discussion?
These will be posted as soon as they're accepted.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we head down to the student representative report, please.
Hi. I hope you don't mind if tonight I step out a little bit early. The jazz district auditions are tomorrow. I need to go home and practice.
That's fine. We want to hear about it when you come back, though.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, gladly. Life at Auburn High School goes on. This past Friday on Halloween, we had our Invisible Children overnight. It wasn't as successful as we'd hoped. We had about 35 students sign up for it, paying $100 apiece, which is good money for a good cause. And I know this following week, I'm not sure how far beyond that, but there'll be a book drive at the school. All those books will be sent to the Invisible Children in Africa. So if anyone has any books that they would like to donate, as long as they're not romance novels, apparently for some reason they ask that there be no romance novels, but other than that, they'd be greatly appreciated and they can be brought to the high school.
Children's books or just any books?
Well,
or?
Any books, because they'll be sent to a wide range of, by children, 18-year-old, who knows.
Well, I mean, when children, I mean like 6 or 7 year old.
Right.
Okay.
Children's books would be excellent, but basically anything will be accepted. And in semi-related news, Jamnesty, the Amnesty International concert, will be held at the high school this year on December 5th, and half the proceeds from that will go to the Invisible Children, and half will go to Amnesty International. That concert will feature bands of students from Auburn High School, including myself. I'll be there. And that's another good cause. That's a Friday, December 5th.
So they're different bands that students have put together?
The students have put together.
Oh, neat.
I'll be doing a Beatles cover band. It'll be fun.
Excellent.
So come down and see that.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
Do you have a time on it? Not yet?
Not yet, but it'll probably be 7 o'clock in that area.
Okay, if it changes from 7, could you let us know, please?
Yes, I will.
Thanks.
And finally, the last home football game of the season is this Friday. Come support the team. And on Thanksgiving is the traditional game versus Oxford in Oxford this year. But that's not too far of a drive to come support your Auburn football team. They'd really appreciate it.
Great. That's it?
Thank you.
Do you need to leave now, or are you going to stay with us for a little longer?
I'll stay for a little. I'm interested to see the environmental report. I'm in the high school club. I'd like to steal some ideas from them.
With that said, I think what we'll do is we'll move the environmental club presentation up to the front so they can come up and talk to us now, if they will, please. I need just for you to tell us what your name is and give us a little bit about what you're doing.
Hello, my name is Natalie Tafaja.
And my name is Janelle Wheeler. We thank you very much for having us tonight. We are here on behalf of the Environmental Club at the middle school.
Unfortunately, Mrs. Pizzella, the club advisor, cannot make it here tonight, but in her place are two of our team teachers, Mr. Collins, who teaches geography, and Mrs. Underwood, who teaches English language arts.
Today we are here to announce the beginning of Auburn Middle School's milk bottle recycling. We are aware that the high school is already recycling, and we would also like to take on the task.
If it's all right, we'd just like to take a minute or two to make everyone aware that we as a middle school and as a town can make a difference in helping preserve the world's natural resources. Here are a few statistics we'd like to share.
Now keep in mind, one plastic bottle in a landfill takes 700 years to decompose. In about one day, our school throws away approximately 350 plastic bottles. Translate that into a week, you get almost 2,000. That means in 1 month, our school throws away 7,000 plastic bottles.
By the end of the school year, you wouldn't believe how much plastic we've put into a landfill, over 60,000 bottles. And that also means that during an average student's time at the middle school, 3 years, there will be almost 200,000 bottles from the middle school in a landfill.
But that's not all. We figured out that by the time an average 7th grader gets married, and possibly his children, there will be over 1 million bottles in a landfill just from our middle school. As you can see, we're really talking about a significant number of bottles, and we need to do something about it.
Now, we just told you about the damage we're doing by not recycling. We can easily correct this if we start recycling. We can save those 1 million bottles and the earth one step at a time.
Exactly, and all it takes is less than 30 seconds to rinse out the container and place it in a recycling bin. Once there, it's all ready for the town's recycling truck to pick it up once every couple of weeks. It's amazing to think that just 30 seconds can make such a big difference. In fact, it's almost ridiculous if you think how truly simple it is, that we can make such a big difference with a little organization, cooperation, and effort.
We hope you start to see the importance of our message of taking care of the earth, because after all, it is our home.
Once again, thank you for having us, and we hope you all have a good night.
Can you stay there for a second? Do you mind? That's very good. Do we have any questions?
Dr. Brunel, do they have containers that they can do this in? Have we provided them with containers, I hope?
At the middle school?
Well, since Mrs. Pizzella, who's involved with it, she's away, so I don't think we haven't started it yet. I think when she comes back, I might.
We will certainly do anything we can to help support this effort, absolutely.
Okay, so if they need, whatever you need to containers, like put the bottles in and stuff, you have to let us know.
So is this a club that you meet with once a week, once a month?
Yeah, once every Tuesday.
Once every Tuesday. Excellent. How many people are in the club about?
16.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Excellent. Very good. We appreciate you coming here tonight and telling us about it. And as Mrs. Bogue said, whatever we can do to help you, you just need to come and help and talk to us. And I'll get you the containers. And is your plan to go around during the school day and make sure that things are being recycled at the school?
Yeah, we do think so.
Excellent. Thank you so much for
It's a
coming in
wonderful
and letting us know
initiative.
about
Thank you
this.
very much.
It's really wonderful.
Good job.
Okay, and I'd have one other item I wouldn't mind moving up,
Excuse me.
if you all don't mind, so that people that are here don't have to stay for the entire meeting, because our agenda is quite long tonight. If you want to bring up the Auburn High School building issues?
Sure. Thank you, Mrs. Gribbins. Oh, yes, we will. Just finding them on the spot here. There have been 3 issues that we've been talking about in terms of Auburn High School and addressing them now. Mr. Ringard from the project management team is here to address any additional questions that you may have. I'm happy to report that yesterday at our professional development day, there was a contractor in there replacing the cracked tiles that had the infamous red tape on those. So those have been replaced just as of yesterday. The locker repairs, as I noted in here, Penco is sending a representative out. We were trying to arrange to have them come yesterday when students weren't in session. We couldn't work that out. They're going to come instead tomorrow afternoon. And the plan is that they're going to do a repair with a heavier gauge metal on the bottom of the lockers in about a dozen or so of the lockers. allow us to use them. The students do their normal wear and tear, as they have already been doing, for the next several months. And assuming that it appears to be an appropriate permanent fix, they'll go through and take care of all of the lockers. And I believe I reported last time, but due to the funding that was approved at the fall special town meeting, they will be, and Mr. Ringard can probably expand on this, putting that underlay where that crack is in the floor from settling, I think so. I don't know if you wanted to, I'll turn it back to you if they want to expand at all.
Okay, does anybody, Wayne?
The only thing I'd like to expand on is, other than those tiles that were cracked there in the beginning by the red tape area, if you walk down the, on the left side, there's, I noticed probably maybe 3 or 4 that already have cracks going through them. Have you noticed them, and is that part of the fixing procedures?
There are 2 cracks, to my knowledge. One in the main cafeteria, one further over near the stairs.
Okay, I'm talking, no. I know what you're saying, but no. What I'm talking about is the tiles themselves in the cafeteria area.
Okay.
There's, if you see where the red tape ones, and if they're fixed, they're fixed. But if you walk down near the windows, if you look at the floor, you can see in some places where the tiles are cracked right across.
Okay.
They haven't came out yet, but you can see that they're broken,
Well,
and they will be coming out.
The intent, we've explained this issue and how it kind of got here a few times, but let me just walk through it again. As we built the building, we poured the floor slab in '05. Somewhere in early '06, somewhere in there, came to the situation that we were going to put the floor tiles down. At that point, we had the option of putting a mesh under the entire floor. The option was brought up because the building is built on an arc. Obviously, the expansion joints for the floor and the expansion joints for the tile are not going to be in the same place because the tiles are square and the building's on an arc. So we had the option of putting a mesh under the entire thing or putting the tile down and dealing with cracks if they came up. And we did that. We took that option. There are 2 major cracks that I call them major, but they're certainly not major. But there are 2 areas where there are cracks. So we could have repaired them before the school opened, and that was the intent. They couldn't. That was right at the very end of June, going into the first 2 weeks of July. They couldn't schedule people in there to do it. So we said, all right, we're going to wait until the first vacation. We will do it then. The next month, we started with the asbestos, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse. So there was no money available to do that. So once the contract ended, there was a period of a year, year and a half, where the contract has ended. We're still in mediation with the general contractor. There was a small amount of money. There was $100,000, almost $100,000 in mediation that was still kind of hanging over our head. We had about $45,000 left at that point. If the mediation hadn't happened at that point, we would have had enough money to do the cracks. Obviously, we had to hold that money to see where the mediation was going to come out. Mediation came out, we ended up with about $6,000 left. So at that point, there is no money. And we sat, I think our last meeting was in September of '07, and we went until June of '06 before we met again, because there was no reason to, there was no money. Pappas money was freed up, now we have some money. At the same time, Eddie has come up with this additional funding, so we have money available now. It's our intent at the next meeting to come up with a scope to repair these things, put it out to 3 bids, and repair them.
Janie?
As part, when you were counting cracks, were you counting the ones near the girls' room on the far right-hand
Yes.
side? Those,
Yeah.
that was one of the cracks?
The one that runs right through and it goes into the girls' room. Yeah,
Yes.
we've seen that.
Okay.
Before we do this, before we actually put it out, we'll walk the whole thing. If you want to meet us and walk it, to make sure we get them all. It isn't a big deal to chip out a tile and put a new one down.
Right.
It's not a big deal at all.
Well,
It isn't, from a physical standpoint to do it. You know what I'm saying? If we're going to do an area 4 feet wide and 18 feet long, or whatever the number is, and there's 2 more over here that we have to chip out, it's insignificant.
Wayne?
I think one of my biggest things was, to tell you the truth, is that the one with the red tape on it has been there for quite a while. It's been broken. And I had brought this up at the last year's budget meeting with Casey Hanfield, and he was asking for money to fix them. And they never got fixed. And then I went down there and I got phone calls about them. And then I went down there for a meeting one time, and I walked in there and I said, Jesus, there's the red tape, tile's still busted, why isn't it being fixed? You know, and it's a thing of...
Didn't I just explain the reason of...
Well, you did to a point, but I mean,
Well,
supposedly
no,
there was money that came from the budget to fix them, and they weren't fixed at that time, last year.
No, I don't believe that's true.
Well, I know,
I don't understand what you're saying.
okay, I'm just gonna make it short and sweet. We need them fixed, period. But,
Well, that's fine.
the thing
That's-
is there's more that's continuing to start to crack, and we gotta make sure they get fixed. We can't keep waiting and waiting and waiting to get them fixed.
Well, I
Well,
think,
then we need to have some money. Now we have some money. 6 months ago or 8 months ago, we didn't have any money.
Now-
They certainly could have been fixed out of the maintenance budget of the building if they had to.
Right, but that's my other point, is the point is that now it's coming out of maintenance from the school budget to pay for something.
no,
No.
it's not.
No,
No,
it's
that's
not
what he's
coming.
trying to explain.
Can I, could you explain it,
Sure,
please?
through the chair. No, it's not going to be coming out of the school's
No,
maintenance.
not now, but if it was gonna come out of school maintenance, then it would have been the budget. And I wanna make sure that it's coming out
If it was
of,
going to be paid out of the
Right.
operating budget, it would have, right, but it is not. being-
right.
it is
And that's
coming
what
out
I
of
wanna
this
make
budget.
sure that, this is why I brought it up the last time,
Yeah.
is to make sure we're not taking money from the school budget from
Mm-hmm.
educating our kids. And that's why I'm so
Well,
into this position.
let me just address that. Let's, for the sake of conversation, say this project was over and there wasn't any more money that we have. You would have to fix it out of the budget. And then at that point, from a town standpoint, what we would have said is that 2 years ago, we didn't spend $30,000 or $35,000, knowing that there may be a crack or two that popped up. You'd have to take care of it. The building is almost, the third class is in there. There are certainly repairs that you're going to have to make in the building, and you're going to have to figure that in your budgets. If you have a cracked
General
tile,
repairs,
2 years from now, if there's another cracked tile, you're going to have to replace it. It's as simple as that. It's a 177,000 square foot building with 1,000 people in it every day. There are going to be maintenance issues that you have to deal with.
I mean, there's more maintenance stuff in there that haven't been done either, but I'm not even gonna get into that tonight with electric and stuff like that. But, I mean, the thing is I don't wanna see if we're still under warranty in these things.
We're not still under warranty. You have a year's
Well,
warranty.
why did we wait this long to do it?
Wayne, can I stop for a second?
Sure.
I think what Rick was trying to explain was the reason we're not under warranty is that when they laid that floor, they said, you
know.
put the mesh down and it cracks, and then it's one issue. But if you don't put the mesh down and it cracks, we're going to have to take care of it. Am I correct, Rick? Is that the way?
Exactly.
The cost of putting that mesh down was, in their opinion, was not cost effective. It was going to cost less to repair a tile than it was to put that mesh down. They couldn't do it right away because they didn't have any money. They now have the money because we just came out of town meeting, and their first priority is to make sure that those tiles get fixed. It couldn't be done until now because there was no money. Town meeting was last week again. Now we have the money. Now they can go forward, and they're being as diligent as they can. But that was a warranty issue that they had to make a decision what was going to be most cost effective. Am I correct on what I just said?
There were a million decisions that we made during the course of the building like that. Should we spend X number of dollars, or should we not do that and deal with the consequences down the road? And we made a ton of them. Ronnie will tell you, we had 80 meetings, and we went through and we had a great construction manager, we had a great architect. And we made a lot of decisions. There were decisions under the football fields that we made, and they've worked out fine, that we could have spent an awful lot more money, and we didn't. We made a calculated decision. We talked about it. We talked it out every week. We made those decisions and moved on. This is one issue that we made a decision, and there are cracks. Had the asbestos issue not come up, the money was available, it would have been done a long time ago. It wasn't because the money wasn't there. As far as the individual tiles, you know, if they were that big of an issue for you, you certainly could have had somebody come in, chip a couple of tiles up, and replace them.
But we would have ended up having to pay for it
Yeah.
out of our budget instead of
Yep.
waiting for it to come out of the
Absolutely.
construction budget.
No.
So actually, I think it turned out best. I mean, we
I
had to
don't
wait
think
a
so.
little while, and it was kind of unsightly, but it came from the money that it should have come from to repair.
Is the reason that we're only doing 10 to 12 lockers first to see if the fix works? Is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And if this fix works, then that's a warranty issue, right? They're gonna, the money's not coming out of our
They've made us,
pocket?
without saying a whole lot publicly, they've made us an offer to come in and replace all of the floors and pay for all the labor.
Oh, good.
They would like us to pay for the material, which we don't feel we're going to do.
Good.
We need to, at this point, see what the fix is to make sure it's going to work.
Okay.
I mean, this thing could have, almost anything could have caused this. It could have been the rivets that the guy, as they installed them, the way they installed them. It could have been the thickness of the material itself. It could have been when those bases were stamped out. Maybe the machine made them a little bit narrow, and it just, and once, it could have been almost anything.
Sure.
So they came in, they looked at it, it took them a couple of weeks, a little bit longer than we wanted them to, but they came back to us and said, here's what we'll do. We want to do we all want to do the fix first so that we know what we're doing is going to work. And they made the offer to supply all the labor for it. We want to see the fix, then we're going to go back to them and talk it out, so.
Okay.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Look, I really do appreciate you coming in and clearing that up for us. And
Yeah, I would just like to say that, you can't imagine how many hours Rick has put into this project over the 5 years, now 6 years.
It's been a while.
Going 6 years
Yeah,
now, and you
it's been
just
a while.
can't imagine the amount of time, and we owe him a great, great debt of gratitude that we can really never adequately compensate him
Thank you.
for.
One thing I want to make perfectly clear. I never said you did a bad job or any of you.
Oh, I know that.
I'm telling you, there's a condition that's happening there that needs to be taken care of.
Wayne, you said it
That's
6 different times.
Well, I want to
heard
make
that.
sure you know that.
It doesn't.
I want it fixed.
There's always the offer, too, that I made to you last week. I'm assuming you got the email. I'm always willing to sit down and
No, I
talk.
didn't get an email.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Okay.
I
Well,
mean, what you,
I'll make it publicly to you then, rather than these issues having to be done on camera. I would certainly be willing to meet you anywhere and walk that school and look at any issues you want to look, within reason.
but the thing is with that is, when people say something to me or make a complaint or ask me to do something to the school committee, I bring it on TV so the town knows and that it gets out there so people know that this is going to be done and it gets done. I mean, walking, I don't know, I'm not going to,
Well, I think,
Go too far
Rick,
more today.
I appreciate you offering that, because sometimes
Right.
when people do call us and we don't have the answers, then
Yeah.
it makes it harder to explain to the public what's going
I
on.
would certainly
So,
be willing to do that. The only thing I would say to you, and I think we talked a little bit at the town meeting, the building is 3 years old, and it's in its third class, and the warranties are gone, and you need to maintain it, and we're willing to talk about anything, but as far as us going back, other than major issues like the lockers and things like that, it's kind of yours to.
well, it is apparent to us that you have been diligent in trying to get everything done in a timely manner so that it's coming from the appropriate budget that it should be coming from. And I'm going to say exactly what Ron just said. Thank you for all your time. It's not like you ever got paid to do this. So it's always a fun thing.
All right.
Is this something new or go ahead?
I just actually want to thank you for the locker part of it myself, because it's something that and if they end up paying for it, which they should. But the thing is, and that's the reason why I bring it out on TV, so that people know and that it does get done. And everybody knows about it.
Okay, Rick, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. I'll see you next time.
Good luck.
Yep.
Good luck.
Bye, good luck.
Jacket.
Okay, so we'll
Nice
go,
story in the launch pad.
have fun. Okay, so we'll go back to the superintendent's report and start with the JB Grade 3 out-of-state field trip.
Yes, this is a request from the grade 3 teachers at the Julia Bancroft, very similar to the request that came through recently from Packagug School to visit the Pequot Museum in Mashantucket, Connecticut. So with your permission, we have Mrs. Shalupka and Mrs. Forbes here.
You join Mrs. Forbes. Hi, I'm Kathy Shalupka. I'm Chrissy Forbes. I'm a grade 3 teachers over at Julia Bancroft School, and we are just coming in front of you tonight to request permission that we take our third graders to a trip that we've actually gone on several years now, but we understand that because it's crossing the state border that we need to seek some permission. But it's a very worthwhile field trip. The children get a lot out of it, and it really brings to life our unit on Native Americans, so we would appreciate it if you would consider granting us permission.
Do we have any questions? I have to tell you that I have been to that museum more than once because it is a field trip that not just JB goes on. I think Packagug goes on that too.
Yes, they do.
It is a fantastic museum.
Amazing.
It's too bad it's so far away because you end up traveling, back and forth. It takes a lot of time, but the kids love it, and so definitely a worthwhile field trip. I need a motion to approve the field trip to the Pequot Museum and Research Center for the grade 3 students of Julia Bancroft School.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any more discussion?
I'm impressed with your 4-to-1 ratio, too. I appreciate it. I appreciate
You're
the...
welcome. And all the chaperones are checked. It's been on the form that I submitted to you.
Great.
We're ready to go.
Good. Okay, is there any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's vote. Thank you so much for coming in.
you.
So if we did have questions, we could have asked them. Thanks. Oh, that's a good, I'm sorry, I didn't even. I just realized, somebody is here for the Auburn Youth basketball, so I'm going to move that one up as well so that we can get to that issue and she can leave if she needs to.
She's doing single duty tonight.
Yes.
She already on
If you've forgotten, my name is Diane Simonelli, and I am a representative for the Auburn Youth Basketball, and we're just back to figure out what your decision was.
Okay. Yes, please.
As noted in my memo to you, and as you directed at last school committee meeting, and we heard clearly that there certainly is not an intent to profit from the use of these buildings for the Auburn Youth Basketball, a program that's going to service nearly 300 of our young students interested in basketball. And met with both Mr. Dede and with Mr. Fahey, our facilities director, regarding this. And we did include in here for you the fees that were approved back in May of 2008. A couple of issues happened. I am confident in speaking with Mr. Dede and Mr. Fahey that due diligence was done in creating this fee structure. They looked at what other area towns charged for these, and certainly at the high school, we have the mechanism to track actually the usage in terms of electricity and heat there. What happened, this was approved in May, and the Youth Basketball League set their rates for families to enroll their children in this, and were using last year's rates to do that. And last year it cost them $35 a night between Mondays and Fridays for up to 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours of gym time for practices. And then on Saturdays they paid $35 an hour to use. So in light of that, and in looking at this and realizing it it is Auburn students using it, what I'm recommending here is to pare the cost really pretty significantly for this season. I would suggest to you that what we would do is do our best to track all of our costs this season. It will run pretty much through beginning of March, I think, is the dates, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And if that time, we would come back to the school committee with a recommendation if we need to change these rates and give them fair warning on that. But my recommendation would be that during the weeknights that the youth basketball would pay looking for my, $50 per night, and that would be for up to 3 hours of gym time. And that would be at the Julia Bancroft School primarily. On Saturdays, that they would pay $40 an hour to use Auburn Middle School. And that would pay for the custodial cost. We would have a custodian on duty. It would require that the Auburn Youth Basketball provide site managers, and we would provide clear direction to them. I happened to have a meeting. They were gracious enough, the board, to come in and meet with me just to simply introduce themselves and set forth their mission and how they're trying to provide truly a service for our young children and families. That they would be service site managers, and we would give them clear direction on what we expect them to do in that role. With the understanding that if any problems do arise, we would ask them first to address it. We would let them know, and if any continue, that we would require them to pay for a site manager of our own that we would hire to be there. And they were willing to assume that. So that is my recommendation, that we go forward for this season at $50 a night for Auburn Youth Basketball from Monday through Friday, and $40 an hour, and that would be for up to 3 hours use of gym. And then $40 an hour for Auburn Middle School on Saturdays.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So what's the difference between, I know Dan did a lot of work when he was coming up with that $50 an hour, right? And so I'm assuming that you took lots of things into account. So and let me preface this by saying I understand that Auburn Youth Basketball does a great job and services well over 300 kids and all the rest of that. So, but what's the difference? I need to understand, what's the difference between this $50 an hour, given that we're trying to break even, all we're trying to do is break even here, and the $50 a night? Like, how is it that we...
The main difference is Monday through Friday, we have custodians on staff until 10 o'clock. So, whereas on Saturdays, we don't have them. So that's why the hourly fee is greater on Saturdays. So we would need to bring in a custodian, and the building would be, for all intents and purposes, shut down, more or less, for the weekend, whereas opposed to during the week, it would be up and running.
No, I understood that.
Okay.
I mean, but during the week, it was going to be $50 an hour during the week. What was the original fee during the week?
The original one prior to this set?
No, the one that they're asking us to waive.
$50 an
$50
hour.
an hour.
Okay, $50 an hour, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
I guess I'm
okay.
asking, how is the $50 an hour determined that now we can justify going down to $50
Through the
a night?
chair, last spring, when we developed those rates, we looked at similar rates in districts in Central Mass and Southern Worcester County. We also looked at, there's a website, and it escapes me right now, but would also post statewide various fees, rental fees. We also looked at communities that had similar demographics in terms of Auburn. We also, last year, as you may recall, we hired Melanson and Heath, an independent auditor, to look at the numbers for the high school and the potential utility cost per hour up there. In that process of looking at the high school, he also gave us recommendations as to what it would cost based upon the previous year's expenditures for electricity and oil, and we came up with a number there for the utilities as well.
So can I ask another question then? So is it then your opinion that we could feasibly charge in-town groups something different than we charged out-of-town groups?
Well, through the chair, we do have two separate rates here that were approved by the committee last spring.
We have nonprofits and we have for-profits. And I think that's what Dr. Brunel was saying, is at the end of the season, I think there's two things going on here. Is you have a program that serves 200 kids, and you're trying to make it feasible for them to have a place to keep these kids busy and give them something to do. And I think that it also gives the schools an opportunity to then in the spring go back and take a look at this and see if we're on schedule with our rates. Can they be lowered? Can we do it for for less than what we've got on this schedule. So it opens up that opportunity as well, so.
Yeah, I'm just concerned, my concern is that we tell people when we, when we talk about, when we went to town meeting and we talked about the fees for the gym, as we all know, we cannot by law subsidize community use of the buildings. We all know that.
Right.
And so we were very careful, as Ann pointed out, that we had consultants come in and help us determine how much it costs us to run the gym at the high school. And I understand you're saying that wasn't done at the level of detail that the high school was done at the grammar school. I keep calling them grammar schools, at the at the other buildings. And so I'm just concerned that I don't want to come up with a number and say to the community, this is what it costs us, and then turn around and say, oh, well, it really costs us something less than that, and so we were making money off you in the first place, if you will. Not that there's a huge demand for those buildings, and I understand that. But given that we can't subsidize community use by law, I just want to make sure that we're all in line and at least covering our costs for those buildings. Yeah. And that's my concern.
Right, and as I said, I think it gives you a great opportunity to be able to step back then at the end of the season and say, are these really accurate? Are the fees that we were charging accurate? So, I personally feel badly that you went out there and set a fee for kids to play basketball under the impression that you were going to be charged one fee, and then you were surprised to find it was something else. So that's a factor too, I think, that we need to consider.
Yeah, it would have been much different.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions?
I just want to clarify, it's a great program. I know I keep saying that, but it's a great program. Every kid in town that wants to play can play. Oh, and if you go to the high school gym on a Saturday, there's so many families there and so many kids, and it's kind of funny with the elections that just happened. You see everybody know at elections. It's kind of like you almost wish you could vote more often, because it's one of the few times that the whole town gets together and chats. And if you ever go to that gym on a Saturday afternoon, it's kind of the same type of atmosphere where you finally get to see other Auburn people and stuff. So I understand that it's a great program, and that's not why I bring this up.
Yeah,
it was a great turnout last Saturday. We had evaluations, and it was taking all the names, and it's just great to see the community come in and kind of come together. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It really is.
As the fees that the superintendent is recommending, how do you feel about it?
That was pretty much in the price range that we were expecting. We were hoping for, I should say. That is definitely within our budget, because we did assume some increase in the fees when we set the $80 per child. So that definitely would fit within the realm of $80 that we set. And we will we'll talk with you next year prior to setting that fee.
Hopefully we get more money for outside, let the inside people get a break, in my opinion.
Yeah. I move we set the rates as recommended by the superintendent for the Auburn youth basketball program using Julie Bancroft School and Auburn Middle School.
Second. With
the provision that we get a report after the season is over to see how we did.
You seconding it?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm confused.
Okay,
I just want to make sure that we're looking at $50
per night
and $40
for JB, and it's $40 per hour for the middle school on the weekends.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming here tonight. Thanks for all the work you do. I know the kids appreciate it. Okay, going back up, we need to. You want me to just let you? I'll just let you go.
Okay.
Let her go.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gribbons. On here, I'm very pleased to report to you that 43 of our current seniors at Auburn High School have qualified for the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. And I purposely did not put in here how it is that we're going to recognize them. In fact, I will bring over to Mr. Hanfield tomorrow in my meeting with him the actual forms and certificates, because we have been in discussion and he has talked with many of the staff there in doing some sort of a special recognition this really is an academic honor that these students have achieved, so we want to highlight that. In order to qualify for the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship, which provides a tuition waiver for the 8 full semesters of undergraduate education at a Mass State College or university, or many of them, I should say. In order to qualify for that, between the ELA and math test, a student has to earn an advanced on at least one of those, could earn advanced on both, but an advanced score on at least one and proficient on the other, and then also have a combined score that places them in the top 25% of their graduating class in the district, so amongst their peers at Auburn High School. So it's quite an honor for these students, and we look forward to recognizing them for their great achievement in this, and hope that many of them take advantage of this. It doesn't pay for fees at the local or at the state colleges, but does pay, certainly in these times and in all times, to get some sort of a scholarship or recognition for great work is certainly commendable. So I will update you once that is planned, our program.
Can I just ask you something? How many seniors are there altogether? Approximately.
150. Yeah.
There's 150 seniors?
Yeah.
Approximately.
Approximately.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get you the exact number.
No, I'm just thinking 25% in that, trying to fit that 43 number into the 25%. So virtually everybody in the top 25% of
that is a true statement. Everyone who qualified in the top 25% did get this as well.
That's pretty
Yes,
amazing.
it's wonderful.
That means everybody who
is eligible.
who is in the top 25% of the
Correct.
class, in fact, scored at least one proficient in whatever.
Exactly.
That's fabulous.
It is. It's a
172?
Sounds right, Mrs. Yes.
I didn't do the division.
3.5% of
Yes,
172?
That's right.
43 times 4 would be 172. But yes, but that's great. Everybody who was eligible, in fact, achieved that status.
Exactly. The next item on your agenda is, we had talked back in the summer, probably the first meeting, and I know when Mrs. Scribbins and I went to the Board of Selectmen meeting, I believe in either late July or early August, at which time she introduced me to the selectmen at that time. We had suggested to them that it would make sense, we thought, to get a group, whether it was all of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee and School Committee together, or perhaps the representatives from each of those two boards and representatives from this board, that could sit and meet and discuss not only planning for FY10, but I think even looking a little further down the road, FY11 and FY12. We hope, we had Mr. Ringard here tonight about the Auburn High building project. Auburn Middle School is in the stage of a feasibility study, and that paperwork is in for that. So we hope to get a school building committee, and I'll have information for you at the next meeting. So there are other issues besides just the operating budget. And I think, especially based on the economic times that we're all currently facing, that real forward thinking and collaborative planning will behoove all of us, I think, as we move forward. So I listed here for you evenings or Saturday mornings, and I'm available between, I started with Wednesday, November 12th, and looking forward through mid-December or so. And didn't know if there were dates that, as a committee, you may want to consider and authorize or ask that I send a letter to the town administrator for both the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee to propose or send an invitation. We meet to discuss school building, operating budget, and other pertinent topics.
First, I think we need to decide, do we want to do all of us? Do we want to, send a subcommittee? How do we want to?
I don't think we can send all of us, otherwise that's a quorum.
Well, you can if you post it, but I just think it's unwieldy. You're talking about 25, 26 people.
Right.
Right, that's
And
kind of
that's
silly.
not going to get much done. So I think you're much better with a subcommittee.
I would agree.
Okay, so before we decide on dates, I think we need to create the subcommittee.
I'll do it.
I'd like to do it.
Okay.
I'd do it too, depends on how many people you want to put on a subcommittee.
Well, I think you're only going to want to have 2, because otherwise then you've got to post it.
Right.
So, Janie and Leanne, you were first to offer your, do you want to, okay.
I'm assuming that the superintendent would like to come with us?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. I absolutely would, and Mr. Didi would also. He's waving over there to me.
So why don't,
Okay.
do you need us to vote on that?
I think, yes.
I move we authorize the superintendent to invite the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee to a joint meeting to discuss budget planning for fiscal 2010 and beyond with school building issues and any other pertinent topics.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, so why don't the 4 of you get together and figure out what's a good date?
So Leanne and Janie are going to do it?
Yeah. Okay. I guess we should,
Because you did say it first.
okay.
The next item on here about professional development in the district. The first one, if I can draw your attention to, is the draft that I share with you this evening on the professional development plan for 2008-2009. And this is a plan that once approved, we would put up on the website for people to see and share as part of PD binders that would go into each of the schools. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education does require that each school district have a plan for professional development. This plan here is really the general or overview plan for the district. I'm very pleased to report that the building principals, in concert with key stakeholders from their buildings, have developed professional development plans that are very specific to their building, that tie into district needs, that tie into needs as defined by data. But that this plan here, I would ask for your approval. If you notice on page 5, and I think that this is really a critical piece about this, that it really is about putting together the pieces of a puzzle. Anything that we do that is well planned and well organized and well structured should have meaning behind it. And certainly we're required to address federal and state mandates. We're required to provide physical restraint training to staff. We're required to train staff in sheltered English immersion, even though we have a very small population of English language learners. That does not preclude us from training our staff in that, and we have already begun that process. Looking at district initiatives and school initiatives, you heard last year some presentations on professional development planning, looking at the professional learning community model with breaking ranks and turning points, which both rely heavily on that model and personalizing the educational environment. At the elementary schools, they're doing a response to intervention. It's a tiered model of intervening when the way I would refer to it as when those little yellow flags go up about students that it seems he or she is having difficulty with a particular skill or topic, a little yellow flag goes up and it allows us to address it at that time, hopefully remediating it so that the issue doesn't continue to blossom and grow, that we get it at its earliest stage possible. And this is an initiative that takes place prior to any special education referrals. And then also in terms of staff needs. In here, and I believe it is on page 10, that it's listed, and I know that this is listed in the strategic plan, which was approved last December, it is my intention to, once this is approved, to send out a notice, in fact, on the evaluation forms that went out for yesterday's PD day, requesting or inviting interested staff members from across the district to join me and other administrators in forming a professional development committee where we would sit and talk about staff needs, look at district needs, look at school needs and federal and state mandates, and put together a plan that is comprehensive that addresses needs for all levels and all staff throughout the district. So I would be happy to answer any questions you may have about this plan or about the specific plans that I included for you that were for yesterday's professional development day. Very detailed, and the evaluation results, many of the principals brought them over today. We'll get the rest of them tomorrow. every staff member completed an evaluation form, and I would be pleased to share those results with you and should have them ready for the November 17th meeting.
Danny?
Question. Given our financial constraints with respect to the professional development money, and given that we started the Turning Point 2000 initiative at the middle school, and given the status of the middle school, how does this plan address, in the context of the Turning Point 2000, how does this plan address the status of the middle school?
It actually, Mrs. Ortiz and Mr. Giordano had contracted with Teachers 21 to bring in Janice Barron is the consultant doing work with them. And it's focusing very much on professional learning communities, but they're looking at school-wide rubrics. And this is actually an initiative that cuts across through to the high school as well. So that way, teachers are assessing students using the same assessment criteria through a rubric. So that's one of the things that they're working on. They're working on creating common assessments. So whether a child has, and this again is middle and high school, whether a child is in Mrs. Smith's class for Earth Science or Mr. Smith's class for Earth Science, they could expect that the assessments would be very similar in that. It is providing opportunities during the school day for teachers to be talking about students, to be looking at work, and talking about the role, the key role that they play as educators in improving how students are learning and what they're being taught. So I think it dovetails perfectly with the initiative on the Turning Points and Breaking Ranks. They are looking at scheduling at both of the schools, and is there a way to refine the schedules in place and make changes, and I anticipate in the coming months that each of them will likely be coming forward with recommendations on how they're actually going to improve it. One of the schools is looking at a local school system who recently went through a scheduling change in an area middle school, and potential going out to visit there to learn from, someone once gave me this little sign that said, learn from others' mistakes, you don't have time to make them all on your own, or something to that effect. So really to utilize local and area schools, especially those that are high performing, that have gone through this procedure, to go and see and talk to staff. How did you do this? What did you learn? What would you change if you could do it over again? So we're going to be utilizing the key people from around us as well. So I think it dovetails perfectly. And certainly this being the generalized overview plan for the district, the plans that have been created for each of the schools that includes staff, all staff members, detail it even more specifically and address it.
Can I just ask one more question? I know, and obviously this focuses primarily on teachers. What about other staff?
This actually focuses on teachers and many of our instructional assistants as well. The day yesterday included all of our teaching staff, our related service providers. It included our IAs, instructional assistants, our ABAs as well. It's secretary, I'm sorry, thank you. It included our secretaries. It included our bookkeepers. Mr. Didi and others ran a session to streamline that process. So it really cut across every area throughout the district. And I think it was, I visited each of the schools yesterday, as did many of us. It really was a very positive, collaborative time when people were working together. So it was a very great day, I thought. Hopefully the evaluations will bear that out. You'll see. We'll see soon.
I had a question. Yeah. I actually was going to bring it up under new business, but since it's on yesterday's thing that we're going through, I'll bring it up now. I don't know whether or not this is, and Dr. Burnell, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but there's a lot of commotion going on at the high school right now in regards to this trimester scheduling. Can you elaborate a little bit? Not only from students, but I've had some parents that are kind of concerned as to what that is going to be or impact or whatever.
As we're talking about professional, let's finish this because this needs a motion, and then she can address
that's
that.
Fine.
If you don't mind. Okay, so I do need a motion to approve the Auburn Public Schools Professional Development Plan for the 2008-2009 school year.
I'll make that motion.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those
I
in
was
favor?
just very much impressed with the complexity of it and the thoroughness of it. And I know the difficulty in across the district meetings, because the larger the meeting and the more diverse an audience that you aim for, the more there will be individuals who feel that they would have been helped by something that is more limited to to their areas. So I'm very pleased to see this, and I also know that it's difficult to get everybody to agree, and I'm glad that you're starting that group to plan in the future.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Vote.
I would say first, in response to Mr. Crowder's, if I may, I think this speaks to the positive tenor of the day yesterday, really speaks to the dedication that really is so evident in all staff across the district, whether it's secretaries, IAs, teachers, service providers. So I thank everybody, and certainly the principals in their key role in this. The issue, Mrs. Gabri, about trimesters is one that is being investigated definitely at Auburn High School. And Mr. Hanfield will be coming in upcoming meetings to inform the committee about that. They are very much right now in the investigative stage. There are some districts in Massachusetts, Whitman-Hanson and Amherst, that both utilize a trimester schedule. And I want to say it's Michigan. I believe that it is. Mr. Hanfield and others have been doing considerable research on the trimester model and what the benefits to it may be and what the drawbacks to it may be. So I think presented to the committee last spring was the idea that they were going to look at the schedule, and was the schedule in place now, the 42 or 47-minute schedule, was that the most effective use of time for students in terms of their learning. So it is one of the models that they're investigating heavily. Beyond that, there's not been a firm decision that's been made on it. I can say this to you, that the elementary schools do use a trimester model, the 4 of them. Their first trimester ends, I believe, November 26th, with report cards going out on December 5th. And I know that has been in place for probably third or fourth year that's been in place, and I believe has worked well. Fourth year has worked well. So it is certainly something that they're investigating. What I can assure you, both with Mr. Hanfield and his staff, is that any recommendation or decision that they go forward with, to bring forward, would be based on what's in students' best interest. It will certainly mean a change. There's one thing that they had talked about was block scheduling, and I think the one thing that I would feel very comfortable in saying is there is no one perfect schedule. Having come from Tantascwa, where they have the block schedule, that was something that they were revisiting. Did that continue to make sense? What were the barriers to that, especially as it related to MCAS testing, quite honestly? If a student had, for the first semester, didn't have it for several months and then was assessed on it, was that effective? So they are investigating all models, and trimester is one of them.
Okay, well, I understand when Mr. Hanfield comes forward, for parents that are concerned, do I just tell them, check the agenda, and when the agenda is is there going to be like a public meeting for parents to, or should it be done in front of the school committee?
My guess would be, and it has not all been rolled out yet, but I think a lesson that we all should heed, and I know that Mr. Hanfield certainly would do this, as with the other administrators, is anytime that there's going to be a change, that we very openly and proactively communicate that with people. And they've not yet done that, because I'm not certain that a decision has been formally made, but I think communication is always the key to resolving issues, hopefully anticipating what questions there might be and giving people an opportunity to voice concerns. So I'm sure it's very early in the process, but there would be a forum for parents long before it even got to this stage to inform you of that, but to share it with parents and the reasons behind it.
Okay.
You know, why were they even thinking about this?
Okay, I know, I mean, I don't want to prolong this discussion, but I know there's students are anxious about it, and the teachers are the ones that are talking to the students
Okay,
about it.
okay.
That's how it's coming out.
Okay.
So the students have all kinds of questions, so they're running home to their parents,
Okay.
and the parents don't know anything, and
Sure.
so they're calling me, and I'm like, I don't really know anything either.
What I
So-
would encourage you to do anytime a parent calls is ask them to call the building principal. Mr. Hanfield's very accessible, and that way he can log any specific concerns that people may have, so that way, assuming a presentation is going to be made or notices that will go home, he can answer some of those questions that are brought to him. So anyone that has concerns on this or any other issue, definitely call the building principal.
I don't think they have specific concerns. I
Okay.
think they're just, it's the unknown,
Sure.
and they don't understand,
Sure.
and they're just trying to get some information
Yeah.
on it, so.
Understood.
Yeah, it's probably, well, it sounds like it's a situation where there is no information because they haven't made a decision
Yeah.
yet.
Unfortunately, like I said, the teachers
Right.
are talking to the students about it,
Yeah,
and so that's how it's getting out there,
Right,
so.
right.
Can I just ask you that you consider one thing when you look at this? Your seniors that are applying early action to colleges, many of the colleges don't want the kids' transcripts until their first semester grades are on there.
Okay.
And depending on the deadline of the school, if you're going to go to a trimester and let's say the first semester ends in December, and so you can't get a transcript out until the middle of December, and if their deadline is something like, you know, November 30th or whatever for early action, that might be something you have to consider for your seniors when you're deciding whether to go to this type of plan or not.
Okay.
Okay.
I will
Subject
certainly
near and
bring
dear to
that
my heart
forward.
right now, so that's
Yeah.
why I
Yeah.
figured I'd bring
Thank
it up.
you. I will certainly
Okay.
share that with Mr. Hanfield.
Okay, and I would suggest that any more discussion that needs to be done on this, we'll do it through the superintendent until
Sure.
something formal comes forward.
Yes.
Okay, the release of executive session minutes.
This is actually a recommendation. As you know, I attend new superintendent meetings, and it was suggested at one of those, it was a special session on legal issues, that for our purposes, but also so that the public knows when they would be released, that we choose perhaps 2 dates on which executive sessions that we would review. I know last year, probably at our August meeting, you reviewed the executive session minutes for the entire school year, and that seemed like an awful long time to wait. I know that even when we release them, if there are still pending issues, and oftentimes it's about collective bargaining issues, so we wouldn't be releasing them anyway. So if we chose, my recommendation is that we choose 2 periods during the year, and I had suggested January and June, midway through the fiscal year, during which we would release executive session minutes, those assuming all items contained therein had been approved, or resolved, I should say.
Janie?
Why don't we just release them as soon as the issue involved in them is resolved? Why do we wait at all?
Through the chair, there is no reason that you would have to do that. You certainly could release them, just as they came up. I was doing this based on what had happened
Sure,
last year.
yeah, and
It
I
was
understand.
based off of waiting an entire school year, or so it seemed, waiting an entire school year to release them. Many of the executive session minutes that we have so far could not yet be released, and very likely, it probably will be January or thereafter by the time they could be released anyway, based on what we all know to be in them, not being yet resolved.
Well, we can certainly, Dwayne?
I like to see them released at every meeting when the decision is final, and I would even like to make a motion to do that. I do not believe in waiting this period and time to release executive session minutes. This is one of the things that I had talked about when I first got onto the school committee board, and I feel very, very, very strongly about, and getting them out for the public so they can look at them, or anybody else can. I do not believe in holding them up.
Okay.
And I have made that motion to release them as soon as the issue is taken care of.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second
Okay, any more discussion?
Yeah, I agree with the superintendent here. One of the reasons we were so slow in releasing some of them is that we had no procedure. And so we never saw them, they didn't come to our attention over long periods of time. And I don't want to be in a situation where we have them coming to us, 10, 12, 14 sets of executive session minutes. In every meeting, we look through those 14 sets and say, well, this one we could release. I mean, it's just horribly time-consuming if we look. Wayne, you had yours. Say, let me have mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right?
Go ahead.
That it would be a terrible waste of time to look at 14 sets of executive session minutes week after week after week, when the reasons for not releasing are probably due to collective bargaining. There's nothing hidden
She
there.
wants to say something.
Well, but I would argue that that would be filtered by the superintendent. I don't believe you'd present minutes to us to approve that we couldn't release. I mean, so that's why I don't understand.
I actually, I did bring one to you, remember, and you tabled it because I had
Right.
forgotten and brought it, so we tabled it. And I just...
Well, that was your one mistake this year.
That's the one I'm allowed, so I got it done early. But...
How many did we approve at that time, Mariel?
Oh, back in August,
Yeah,
I would
there was a
say
whole
there was a
stack
stack of them.
Yeah.
Oh, at least there were more than that. It seems like they were from every meeting. I forget.
Wait a minute. Do you, it sounds to me like you brought forward a recommendation, but, I mean, how do you feel about bringing them forward every meeting, given what Ron said? Do you feel that it's easier to do it every meeting, or to do it?
The reason I had recommended this is we have executive session minutes. We keep a file, and at the conclusion of one school committee meeting, we start the packet, or sometimes we have concurrent ones going. And so we put the executive session minutes, for example, in the November 17th. Very likely they're not going to get approved. We're going to then put them in the December 1st folder and then keep pushing them off and pushing them off. What I want to ensure, and the reason I was recommending a system, perhaps it's not twice a year, perhaps it's 4 times a year, or if you ultimately decide it's as soon as they're released, whatever the system, I think we need to state what that system is going to be and make it public. I want to ensure that we're keeping executive session minutes, that we're presenting them to you as soon as an issue is resolved, and that they don't get lost. We have an enormous, when you see the size of this packet today, we have an enormous amount of paper, and I don't want to have them get misplaced in the shuffle. That was the reason for suggesting a format or a plan.
So is what Ron's saying, I mean, he is not a secretary, he's not the superintendent. So it sounds like both Wayne and Ron have some valid points. So I guess I'm looking to you to say, is it hard to do it every meeting because of the reasons that Ron gave, or is it easier to do it every meeting that you're just keeping up with it? I know your recommendation is twice a year, but I'm not sure that's, you were thinking it was going to be once a year, and now you're saying twice a year, but had you thought about every meeting?
Correct. I had not thought about every meeting, and it certainly wouldn't be every meeting, because we've got some executive session minutes from probably 3 meetings ago that we've not brought forward because the issues in them were not resolved after that first time I brought them forward. So we just continue to put them into the next folder. So this is not an issue I honestly feel real strongly about. I mean, my recommendation was, I thought once a year was far too infrequent, and it seemed to me if we had a set standard, January and June, that would make sense. But I think
But it sounds like you've got executive session minutes and you just keep
Shuffle into the
putting
next
them to the
folder.
next folder
We
until
do.
finally it's...
Correct.
But if you
So-
give them to us every week, then we will have a pile. If we don't act on them, what do we do?
No,
We throw
she's
them away?
she's only going to bring to us,
We won't give them
that's
to
what
you.
I wanted to
That's what
figure
I'll
out.
do. It's a system,
She's
so
just
we'll
going to bring
keep them
forward to
aside.
us every week,
Right.
if there's even any. She's only going to bring the ones that we are able to approve that meeting. So it won't be a matter of us shuffling through it, so.
I agree.
Wayne, I think I think we've all coming to an understanding,
Yeah.
but go ahead, Wayne.
Well, we are coming to understand, but I feel very, very, very strongly about doing this every week. And it would be only as
as the
the
issues are
superintendent had
resolved.
said, is when the issue is over.
Okay.
When we had the executive session minutes that we did prior, back there, I don't know, 10, 15, whatever number we had, were all ones that were mounted up that were never voted on. When I first come on this board, we never even voted on executive session minutes
Okay.
for quite a long time, until we came, just let me finish, Liz.
Yep.
When we came, we got that package because they did pile up. Because they were never brought to the committee to be a vote to approve. And that's exactly what I'm saying. We can approve them at each meeting. If we can't because the situation isn't done yet, which is the way it has to be anyway, that's the legal way, then so be it. I'm
you
not
just don't
asking you
bring
to do
them
something you're
forward.
not supposed to do. I'm asking you to release things that are done,
understand.
so we don't have to keep piling them out. And if the people or the residents of town want to see the executive session minutes, they can come down here and say, listen, I want these dates. They don't have to wait 6 months, a year down the road to
Once
see them.
I think Mr.
Right,
I think
once they're
Mr.
approved, exactly.
I think Mr. Prouty was under the impression that
Exactly.
we were going to sit at a meeting and filter through them. But I think what Dr. Brunel is saying is she'd
Right,
best bring
we'll do the
forward
filtering, right.
the ones that are appropriate to pass for that meeting. Okay, any more discussion?
That's what I was going to say, if it's easier to do it quarterly, if you can't do it weekly.
Okay, all those in favor?
Town member.
Aye. Opposed?
Just like they were saying, we don't get to see it all.
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
just so you know, you need to be recognized. Thank you. Okay.
I didn't vote because
Oh, you
I
didn't
wanted to
vote?
make sure I knew what we were voting on. We're voting.
soon as they're available.
As soon as they're
So
available.
is available, every
Yeah,
meeting,
okay.
if they're available. If they're not decided on yet, then you can't release them.
Okay, aye.
But the decision is the superintendent.
Correct.
But if the
Right,
decision,
right.
wait a minute.
Right.
If the decision is finalized,
Right.
they'll be brought to the school committee for a vote.
Yes,
Right.
that decision
Absolutely.
is
Yes.
the superintendent's. I don't want us
But how do
sitting
you
up here
say that?
saying, bring us, bring us, bring us.
I would do the
No, that-
review, once
Yeah.
an issue is resolved, then I'd include it in the
Yes.
packet.
Right, as long as the
Yes.
issue is
Yeah.
resolved, we can do it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Aye.
The next several items, actually, 1, 2, 3, the next 4 items are all donations that were made to the Auburn Public Schools in various forms, and would ask for your acceptance of them. The first one is from Target Corporation, sent a check to Auburn High School, and that is to be used for shoppers who have designated Auburn High as their school of choice, I'll say, for lack of a better term, that they receive points for purchases, and a check was received by Mr. Hanfield, so I would ask that you accept that.
Do we know what the dollar
Yeah,
value
what was the dollar amount to this?
$177.50.
Move we accept it and send a note of thanks.
177.50, you said?
Correct.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote.
The next item is the Auburn Middle School Student Council. Each year, they raise thousands of dollars, and they donate much of it to charitable organizations. And they would like to make a gift to Auburn Middle School of 2 50-inch Samsung high-def flat-screen TVs and DVD players to be mounted in the cafeteria. So I would recommend that you accept that donation.
Just one.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I just want to say one thing on this issue is I did get a call about these 50-inch TVs being put in. Why is the school department paying for TVs to put in the schools? And I just want to, glad this came out tonight because I actually forgot to bring it up. And I'm just glad to see that now people can understand that these were donated.
Donated, definitely.
So, and
And I'll make that motion to accept the donation.
do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I just have one question. If I'm not the only one, I'm going to let somebody else ask first. Okay. You have a question?
Well, I
Go.
just don't know why we've got TVs and DVDs in the cafeteria.
And again, before, I was going to ask the same question, so I realize that the student council raised this money, so I don't want to sound like we're not appreciative
correct.
of it. But I
right.
do have the question as to why are we putting TVs in the cafeteria?
I did ask that
It's not for
question
during
in
lunch.
anticipating it is not for during lunch, and Mrs. Zotner is reminding
I
me.
have the answer on my
Yeah.
computer. It was because the cafeteria is a big enough space where a wide enough audience would be able to see.
And you need to be far enough
use
away
them
from it in order to
when
view
they're
it appropriately.
using it
Thank you.
appropriately.
So if you had like educational DVDs or
Right.
something, you
Correct.
need a
That goes
place to
along
put
with
that
the
many
curriculum.
kids.
Right.
They would take them down to the cafeteria.
So this is
to
not
view it.
for,
Entertainment,
Sports
this is
entertainment
academically
No, it's not for
related.
entertainment purposes, it would be
It's not for during lunch.
Correct, it's not for during lunch,
Or-
it would be for educational purposes, and there is a procedure in place. In fact, I'll
I
be
was gonna
bringing
ask you
to you, hopefully, if not for the November 17th meeting, then certainly by the December 1st meeting, a recommended policy on video use in the classroom. So that will come
Okay,
forward.
Good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's vote.
The next item is, it's not a monetary or tangible donation, but it is from the Ecotarium. There is a Zula Patrol exhibit, and Bryn Mawr School first and second graders have been invited to attend free of charge to the Ecotarium, including the transportation. They were selected, I'm assuming randomly, or perhaps not, but the Ecotarium did receive a grant and they have been invited. So I would ask that you accept this generous donation from the Ecotarium, that we could forward to them a thank you.
So moved.
Can I ask a question?
Wait a minute, there's a
Zula?
motion. Let's just get a second and then we'll.
Second.
Okay.
I'm going to show my ignorance. What's Zula Patrol?
It does list the information in here at the very back of the packet.
Yeah. Is it weather?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh,
it's
okay.
regarding
I kept seeing
weather.
under the weather, mission weather.
Train
I see-
rides
I'm
on the little
squishing.
train up there.
It's right in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will be taking pictures from that event, so I'll have pictures if you'd like them, to see them.
Okay.
I'm kind of an extra chaperone on that event, so I'll have lots of photos from that trip. From what I understand, the Ecotarium received the grant, and they contacted Bryn Mawr and said, we have enough for those 2 classes to go, and then we received notices home saying that the children are offered, and that includes buses as well. So
Yeah, we have
was
that in
the
here,
amazing
yeah.
part of that.
Okay, thank you.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's nice.
Nice.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's a vote.
And the fourth donation this evening came from Hanush Jewelers. They ran a watch battery replacement program this summer, and for each watch battery which was replaced, they set aside funds for Auburn Public Schools. So we received a check in the amount of $259.35. I would recommend that we approve and accept that.
I'll make the motion that we accept the generous donation from Hanush Jewelers.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Vote.
The next item, an informational piece. This actually was the BioTeach Award, led by Mrs. Estefan, but a team of her science teachers as well involved. And you may have been made aware of this last year, but I just wanted to be sure that you were. There'll be, over the course of, it's basically a 6-year timeframe, but they'll receive approximately $14,000 worth of hardware, consumables, and training with stipends for staff. So this is actually year 2 of it. They received $1,200 in matching funds for consumables, and they do plan, as I noted here, to hold their first Biotechnology Expo in March. The whole department is involved in that, as our science students are expected to participate. So as that event unfolds, I will certainly keep you informed about it, but I'm excited to attend that, certainly.
Okay. The invitation?
The last item is an invitation from a law firm regarding, I know Mr. Page and Mrs. Gibbery are going to the MASC conference. So I put this in here for all of you to know in case any of you chose to drive down that evening to attend the event.
Okay, and before we move on to unfinished business, there was one item here, Elizabeth Johnson retirement. We're going to put that off to the next meeting. Mrs. Johnson couldn't be here this evening. Okay? All right, unfinished business?
We've addressed the Auburn youth basketball. I included for you, as I promised to do it last meeting, and we'll continue to. Mr. Ringard really is great about getting meeting minutes out very, very soon after our meetings. The meeting minutes from October 16th, and just to inform you that our next meeting is a week from tomorrow, November 13th. We will have that. And I also believe we've addressed the Auburn High building issues, and also, so to go down to the Auburn High building project update. We are at the point that MSBA is looking for closeout documents to be signed and move forward. As you know, last week at the fall special town meeting, the town meeting did approve the Phase 3 construction, the Drury Square phase, and would like to move forward with signing a contract with Argus Construction, and that would require Mrs. Gribben's signature along with mine, as well as Selectmen and School Building Committee. Mr. Ringard informed me that it has been reviewed by Mr. Hennigan, Town Council, and will be ready for signing. So what I would recommend is that, with your approval, to approve the recommended motion authorizing Mrs. Gribbins to sign those closeout documents to send to MSBA.
I'll make that recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
The last item I have under unfinished business is the Satellite Galaxy staff audit. I'd given you the blank copy at last meeting, I believe, and include for you the results that we have here. I have met already with the elementary principals to discuss the results, and each of them is working with their respective lead teachers and staff in their buildings in addressing these. Some of them are issues of making staff aware that we have particular policies and procedures in place, and in other instances, it's brought to light where we need to put some issues in place and procedures in place. So we'll continue to work on that as we move forward.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go down now to business and financial report. Mr. Dede?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On October 16th, Dr. Bernal and I met with the leadership team to kick off the FY 2010 budget preparations. As an aside, if I may, last week on October 28th, Dr. Bernal, Mr. Fay, and I had the opportunity to attend a MASBO meeting in Randolph, and the guest speaker was State Treasurer Cahill, and he gave the audience, which consisted of primarily business managers but also superintendents, a quick snapshot as to what the future held beginning in 2010 and also 2011. And to no one's surprise, the crystal ball was not looking encouraging at all as we gear up for the following fiscal years. That being said, I prepared for you this evening the document that was distributed to the leadership team on October 16th. And one item in the packet that I wish to bring to your attention are the suggested budget timelines that we have identified for this year. One significant change is that this is a fairly aggressive schedule for the late fall, early winter. As you can see here, where we're looking to bring forward a document to present to the town accountant that would be in line with his deadline historically for other town departments, which would be right after the New Year's holiday. So there, I am suggesting a number of meetings during the month of December, both in the evening and perhaps on a weekend, as the leadership team comes forward and presents their recommended budget for 2010. With respect to the 2010 budget, once again, we'll be looking at the zero-based budgeting model, essentially asking the administrators to start from ground zero, literally, and to sharpen the pencils, and to really be prepared as they come forward to articulate and to defend their recommendations in light of the fact that clearly it's the following fiscal year is not looking to be very good, to say the least. Be happy to answer any questions. On
Thank God question 1 failed yesterday.
Superintendent, okay, I'm starting to read this a little better now. Sorry.
What's that?
Okay.
But you're going to need us to give you feedback this evening about these dates.
If
Am I
not
correct?
this evening, certainly for the next meeting. Again, Mr. Kazanovich will have his kickoff meeting at about the same time as in the past, mid to late November. What this has done for us is that it's given the leadership team the opportunity to get a jump start for about a month or so to 5 weeks prior to Ed gets some definitive numbers from the state as to what next year will be.
If I may, do we have any idea when the state's going to tell us how much money they're going to give us?
Through the chair, again, we'll have that information at the official town's kickoff meeting later on this month.
Oh. That's good.
Your schedule recommends that we look at it and approve it over a 2-week period, is that right? For the second and third week of December?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. It's, as I said earlier, it's a pretty aggressive schedule, and Dr. Brunel and I talked about this, and what we hope to accomplish is to bring in a budget that is very much close to the town's deadline with the other town departments.
Yet the town doesn't take that, so the January 5th date is what Mr. Casanova is giving you as a date that he'd like to have it?
Through the chair, that's not a definitive date yet, but when he and I were speaking, and as I was formulating this schedule, I had asked him, when would you normally ask your department heads to come forward with their information? And he said right after New Year's holidays. So that number is my number, given that that date is my date, given that discussion.
And we normally give that to the town accountant, and then he gives it to the finance committee?
Through the chair, for FY09, we had voted, you had voted on a budget by February 15th of last year.
I was going to say, it was in February last year that we were doing the budget.
Yeah,
It
the
wasn't
public hearing
January.
too was much after that, Janie.
Yeah, so.
We didn't approve the
Because
budget.
finance committee they don't present this to the finance, we don't present this to the finance committee till March.
That's
So
correct.
that was my question, is we give all of our information to the town accountant and then they give it to the finance committee, or do we give it directly to the finance committee?
No, through the chair, we will submit budget documents to the town accountant, to the town manager, and then, as I note in my schedule, there may be meetings in January with the two of them to discuss what we've brought forward.
But I think you're right, Liz, that in previous years, we've brought material to the finance committee directly.
Because technically, we're not a department under the town accountant.
Yeah, and quite honestly, I think we should continue to do that, because I don't think there's anybody better to explain our budget than us.
We do have down here, Mr. Didi does have down here that we're going to present to the finance committee. I guess my question is, this is extremely aggressive, and if it has to be January 5th, it has to be January 5th, but I question that it has. If you pose the question to the town accountant, when does he have his departments turn it in? the answer to me is going to be different than when do we have to have it, because I think, as I said, I don't think.
If I may, it seems that perhaps Mr. Didi and I can go back and look. What we were really trying to do is to ensure that we adhered to timelines that were set. If it's the will of the committee, we can go back and review through this. And last year, you presented to the Finance Committee on February 15th. Is that what I understood you to say, or?
Through the chair, meeting with the Finance Committee was actually like March 3rd.
Oh.
We had completed a budget document. Dr. Allen in the Admin Council had finalized their discussions with you by February 15th. And it was at that point in time that we did submit a budget document to the town accountant, to Mr. O'Connor. And then from there, we were the first to present to the Finance Committee on or about March 3rd of 2008.
Janie?
I'll tell you what my fear is, and this is what happens, quite honestly, because the state is not good about getting the town, their numbers. But what happens is we develop a budget, and then we're either forced to cut because the state gives us a target, and then we try to meet that target, and then they move the target either up or down, and then we move the target up or down, and then the community gets the impression that it's us fudging the budget. It's not us fudging the budget, it's us trying to conform to what it is the state has given us and the town has given us to create a budget. So my fear is by getting in, by January, I sincerely doubt that the state is going to have a firm number for us by then. And that's why I would respectfully wait till we get the best number we can, given that I understand that it probably won't be till significantly later that they're firm. But I, respectfully would like to wait until we get the best number we're going to get from the state before.
Right. I think I'm sorry, Mr. Didi, go ahead.
To the chair, if I recall last year, the House 1 budget came out from the governor on or about January 28th of 2008. It was fairly late in January.
Well, and we put together the subcommittee that you're supposed to be getting together with the select board and the finance committee. And I think that if you can have that done, if you can meet with them sooner than later, I think it's going to be an ongoing process. But if your first meeting could maybe address this issue as to, how are we going to go forward with this budget process? Because I don't think that necessarily the way we've done it in the past is maybe not the way we want to do it this year. I think with all those committees putting their heads together, we perhaps can come up with a better way of doing it. So is that would you
Absolutely.
agree
Mr. Didi
with
and I
that?
will both be there, so we can certainly do that.
Okay, and then, and I'm not saying, Mr. D, you were given a date, and so I'm not suggesting that you came forward with anything wrong. I just want to make sure that we have enough time to prepare a budget that is the best that we can do. This is, certainly we'll do it if we have to, but.
Through the chair, are there any other questions relative to the budget packet that was submitted to the leadership team?
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you. Secondly, Dr. Brunel asked me to attend the department heads meeting on October 17th. And just as a point of clarity, the minutes that were attached there, I'd like to rephrase those, and those are just my notes. Those are not, by no means, official or approved minutes. Those are deeds notes. How's that? Three things. Number one, during that discussion, the town accountant made the group aware that the circuit breaker was cut. Yes, there was a $13 million cut. The cut in circuit breaker was a reduction from the reimbursement rate of 75% to 72% for FY09. Secondly, there's a discussion about the CIP and to freeze or not to freeze, and I wish to make the committee aware that Dr. Brunel and I have had lengthy discussions about this, and we are in agreement that as we go forward with the CIP for FY09, that we are going to suspend the pursuit of the equipment for the short term, for several months, with the exception of the middle school to respond to the needs over there. We hope that we will pursue this probably around February or so of 2009. There was also discussion.
Dan, when you talk about the CIP frozen, are you talking about the process of coming up with the CIP or just the expending of any funds that may be appropriated?
Through the chair, just the expending of the funds that have been appropriated.
Okay.
As I said, we are going forward to purchase technology that is absolutely needed at the middle school to respond to an issue over there. But we do have the flexibility to expend those dollars if we have to.
It's not a case where you see it being rolled over into next year's CIP?
Through the chair, no. When the town floats the bond, they have up to 2 years to expend those dollars.
Anything else?
There was also discussion at the meeting about Town Hall potentially closing on Fridays and having a 4-day work week, and then what impact that would have on evening meetings. And the question was asked of me informally from the town manager if they could look at other sites, perhaps West Street, for any future evening meetings if they were to go forward, because of the technology here to televise meetings for various town committees if necessary. I presented that to Dr. Brunel, and nothing more has come out of that. Nothing more has come out of those discussions about whether or not Town Hall will be closing on a Friday. But we also, in our discussions, looked at if this were to come to pass, as perhaps an alternative might be the high school and perhaps the presentation room.
Would you give us and I was going to suggest that we get a list of rooms that are wired for TV so that they would be appropriate as meeting rooms outside of here.
Through the chair, I'd be happy to do that. And in our discussions, Dr. Brunel and myself, given the activity at the high school, Monday through Thursday, if not certainly Monday through Friday, and given the fact that the presentation room either can't be or certainly has the potential to be wired to cover live meetings.
But it's my understanding that they can tape stuff but not do it live.
Through the chair, that is correct now, correct. But I believe, and again, we're just in the initial phases, that if this were to come to pass, that room could be wired to cover live meetings, but we haven't gotten to that bridge yet.
I know I'm on the cable committee, so I know that they would like to do that to the presentation room. I don't know if they would have to get the okay from the school committee to do it, and I think that if I remember correctly, and I'll have to go back to them again, is I think since it's a town thing that they would pay to have it done. So I think that's a good thing, not only for other people, but even for our own committee. I think it would be a good room to do meetings and presentation room, and I think you may get more people coming to the meetings too when it's more central located in the middle of town. And I think it would work great, but I mean that's another discussion. If this committee wants me to go back and talk to the cable committee, I'd be more than happy to. I mean, that's up to this board.
Well, do you want to just find out, why don't you want to just wait and find out as to what the town is planning to do, and then we'll go forward from there?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, this is very informal at this point. I don't think the selectmen, we just wanted, Mr. Dede wanted you to be aware that this was something that had been mentioned so that you could be aware of it. We've gotten no formal request.
Correct.
Yet at all.
On the other note too, not just because of them, but because of the school committee themselves too, if they would like to move into the high school presentation room. I'm not saying just for the town side of it, I'm talking about both, and whether they do it or not.
For
I'm
us
just
to
thinking
go
it's something
have our
maybe the
meetings
school
over
committee
there.
should think about. I mean, I'm not saying think about it and get it resolved tonight. I mean, you know, it's out there, so you know about it.
Yeah. Okay.
We can deal with it later.
Okay.
Last but not least, technology. Through the chair, I'd like to very briefly just outline the scenario of the events the past couple of weeks very quickly. On October 22nd, 2008, the CMTS, more commonly referred to as the Cable Modem Termination System, ironically, failed. At that time, we were not aware as to the degree of the problem. On Friday, October 24th, Dr. Brunel, myself, Mr. Bouvier, Mr. Marino, had a conference with Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Kazanovich, and Mrs. Hanson at Town Hall to discuss the issue and what can we do. We agreed that we would bring in an outside consultant along with Charter to explore the problem. On October 29, 2008, a technician from Charter and an independent consultant who is familiar with the equipment, along with Mr. Bouvier and with Mr. Marino, spent the day trying to repair the equipment. It was their professional opinion at the end of the day that the equipment was indeed dead, for lack of a better term, and that if there were to be a repair cost incurred, that it was essentially cost prohibitive. This past Monday evening, Mr. O'Connor brought forward to the Board of Selectmen a plan to engage a charter in a contract to be called Charter Business Services, if you will, for up to 3 years. And the purpose of this contract was to create, and I want to backtrack for a second, and though the school department is negatively impacted by this issue, as are all other town departments across the board. The proposal was brought forward, and the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously for Mr. O'Connor to engage in this contract. And in essence, what the contract will do is enable Charter to create individual VPNs, virtual private networks, in all the buildings that will enable them to communicate amongst themselves and with Town Hall via the internet. That will help this office tremendously because when the CMTS failed, this office, this building was impacted, the business office was impacted first and foremost. Our buildings, our school buildings, were not impacted. We did last year build a backup. We did build in VPNs in all of our buildings. In essence, those buildings are running on life support. The VPN is designed to be a backup, not to be the sole source. But they are running, and they are running okay. Some are slower than others, but those buildings are okay. This office is not okay. This building is not okay. I need to state, though, without equivocation, that even though the financial services in this building is non-operational, we have not and we will not miss a beat. Payroll has been processed and will continue to be processed for the indefinite future without missing a beat. We will continue to process our bill schedules without missing a beat, and we will continue to process into work in human resource management without missing a beat. Our staff have been great across the board. We've been working very collegially as well with the town accountant's office. We have established a hub up at Town Hall to work, and for the next up to 4 weeks, we will work out of that location until this gets resolved.
Any questions? Jane?
And so we have to send our personnel up to Town Hall to do things like process payroll, process invoices, all that stuff. We have to send our people up there to do that? Is that how we're accomplishing what we need to accomplish?
Through the chair, yes.
And you're saying approximately 4 weeks?
Through the chair, the 4 weeks, that is correct. When I was speaking with the town accountant last week, he made me aware that it would be about 4 weeks. and on Monday evening, when this was approved by the Board of Selectmen, the professional opinions that, on the information he was given, would be about 4 weeks to get the system up and running to create these VPNs that would enable the communication of information via the internet.
What's the chance that the VPNs will go down? You know, if they're designed for backup system and we're using them now as our only system, what's the chance that they might fail us?
Through the chair, it's possible. However, I can speak from experience here in the school department in our buildings. We created this backup plan in our buildings last year. Essentially now we're paying $109, $110 a month for our buildings to stay online. That's not to say that, as I said a moment ago, that a building or two has difficulty processing information. It's slow. That's not to say that there may be a cable modem in a building that does go down. That just requires resetting, and then they're up again. However, that the purpose of the VPN is, for lack of a better term, to use the analogy, is it is life support that has proven to be successful.
Is the fix going to be costly?
Through the chair, the town has assumed the monthly cost. We are paying a cost now here at central office, and the cost that we will assume, it's a wash. There is no additional cost to the school department once we piggyback on this fix here.
Okay.
No
You don't
additional-
see this as a budget buster coming up for us of some type? We've got to do something that's going to cost us an arm and a leg in the next fiscal year, do you?
Through the chair, no, because while this is going forward, Mr. Connor spoke with both Dr. Bernal and I on Monday, several meetings, both on the phone and in person, that he is eager to pursue the fiber project, hopefully sometime next spring.
I have two things. So I understand that the problem is mostly speed coming out of the schools, right? I mean, because VPNs can be very slow, especially if you do any magnitude of data, which is probably why you're having an issue here at central office, because we process much more data here than we do out at the schools.
Through the chair, as an example, as I said a moment ago, our buildings pay on average $109, $110 a month. This building here pays $131.77 a month because of the upstream of the flow of information. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and my second thing is, didn't the cable committee at one time have money available for the fiber optic project?
They still do.
And so, what am I missing?
That was brought forward in our meeting with Mr. O'Connor, and I believe we pulled the meeting minutes was from June. Remind me of the date, Mr. Dede.
Through the chair, August 6, 2007.
Yeah, that it was approved through the school committee, and a presentation came forward from Mr. Valentine and Mr. Longfield at the time, and also by the Board of Selectmen. Mr. O'Connor has assured us that this temporary fix for charter business, and in fact even went so far as in the contract that should the town, when the town moves to fiber, that is the way to release them out of this contract. So this had to be put in place, but the other train is still certainly moving forward, and we're trying to push forward. Mr. Bouvier and Mr. Dede have been involved with this obviously a lot longer than I have, but the VPNs are very slow and somewhat unreliable in some of our buildings. Couple of them in particular have regular challenges on a day-to-day basis. So it is by far not a solution. It is a Band-Aid on a problem, and I think everyone recognizes it as something that we need to move forward with. And at the Board of Selectmen meeting Monday night, it was stated publicly that we will continue forward with the charge of going towards fiber.
Wayne?
The only thing is with that is this fiber thing has been going on for at least 2 years.
I know.
And it continues, and every time you hear about it, they say, we're moving on it, we're moving it, we're gonna move fast, we're gonna get it going, we're gonna get it going. And it's 2 years later and we still haven't got there yet. You know, there's something wrong. And it's, well, it's not our fault, it's right. It's coming from the top of the hill. They're the ones that keep saying it's gonna be done, and it's not being done. 2 years is too long, especially in between the schools and municipality part. It just, it doesn't happen. You did that into a business, you'd be gone, it'd be done. It'd be over. A year ago.
I think, if I remember, I think it had something to do with the legal counsel.
They had legal counsel, then they had
and there was all kinds of wording issues, but that was the last I had heard, that it was a legal thing.
They had a problem with the guy that was there, and then all kinds of stuff, but hopefully we get some movement.
Ron?
Yeah, I've just got one other question, and I know that this would not be received by good graces up at Town Hall, but since they come to us and say, when we need meeting space, can we meet on your premises, we're using your lights and your electricity because we want to close this drafty old building, why the heck, for the time that Munis is down, why can't they come to us and meet with us? Probably not here as much as the high school would provide an adequate space for, you know, for all the bookkeeping needs to be done for this period of time. You know, why should we send our people up there, particularly when they're saying, well, maybe we'll close on Friday and maybe we'll close evenings.
What if they close on Friday? How are we going to process on Friday if they close?
We're not asking you to.
I was gonna say
You're not asking you to I think it brings up some good points that perhaps you can think of.
We absolutely will.
The
short answer, however, I will say is that the Munis server is at Town Hall, so that is the reason that we are going up there, and they are truly being as accommodating as we can, and I know that this has been a long process, and I jump in at the very end of it, but I hope that I'm jumping in at the end, but at the same time, it's the beginning of us, you know, going forward.
I hope it's the end.
I hope it's the beginning. You bet, right.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry to cut in on you, Liz, but is there any way we can like really keep up a tight update on this, and if they seem to be going where we've been going, if we can give them a little boot or something to
I think Wayne's right. I think you need to keep us really up to date on this.
Right.
And
We gotta be.
if Ron and I and Mary Ellen need to go to a selectmen's meeting and talk to, you know, we need to be proactive with this in a more aggressive way, I think, if that's, you know, if you feel like that needs to be done. So just let us know. Just keep us up to date. Okay.
I go anyway.
Yeah, we'll just send Wayne. Okay, under policies?
The final item, the policy that had been brought to you at the last meeting, GBED employee roles. As requested, I did review this with Michael Gilbert from Mass Association of School Committees, and you'll note, other than that final, where it says track changes, that just is noting to you that those are recommendations that came directly from your organization, MASC.
Okay.
I like it better.
Yeah, I like this better too.
We're looking for a second reading now?
We're actually looking for a first reading because we tabled it last time, so we're looking for
Okay.
first reading, and he did state that he thought it was much better that it be in the form of a policy versus a collective bargaining agreement at all, so.
Okay, so I
We
need,
approve it as a first reading.
Second.
any more comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote. Okay, and I just need a recommendation, a motion to go into executive session, please.
Somebody else read it.
And it's right there on your sheet.
No, go ahead.
These are a bunch of chips.
I need a motion to enter into executive session under MGL Chapter 39, Section 23B3 for the purpose of continuing discussions of strategy with respect to collective bargaining.
So moved.
Okay.
So moved.
I'll second.
We got to say also, we're going to reconvene
Roll call vote.
only to adjourn, right?
Yes.
Mrs. Gibbrey?
Yes.
Dr. Bogues?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes, only because my motion passed.
Mr. Prunty?
Yes.
Mrs. Gribbin?
You won't have this one. I was like,